Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is our New Year's Eve show. Welcome to the show with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York City, Kaustubha Das. Welcome, you guys. We did it. We made it through 2020. Almost. We almost made it through 2020.
Mare stranded out on an island without any ID.
Yeah, Mare is locked in a tropical paradise. What should she do? She lost her ID. Maybe that's a sign from God. Bhagawan is saying, stay in Puerto Rico.
It's lovely here. I could stay here for a while.
I was just talking to Mara before the show, and I think, you know what? We made it through 2020, and a lot of us here have been, whether we're live on Zoom or listening as outsiders, the Bhagavatam has been a real life preserver for us. It's been a lifeline in crazy times. Crazy times perpetuated by craziness, perpetuated even more by the media, perpetuated by fear and anxiety, perpetuated by loss of income. And the Bhagavatam has been a lifeline for me, I can safely say. And I really want to extend a thanks. And because we had to show up every day and do it. And it really gave me some buoyancy in crazy times where I really felt like sinking some days. You know, Kaustubha and Mara, you guys witnessed me go through everything this year. And it was really actually beautiful to have this community of support. And imagine at the end of 2021, if we can say, you know what? I decided to upgrade my life. I listened all year to the Bhagavatam every day. Imagine if it's 1 year from now, we're saying, I listened to the Bhagavatam every day. I woke up early every day, went to bed early every day. I ate well every day. I took care of my body every day. Imagine how great we will feel, even in the midst of who knows what 2021 holds. That's what I'm responsible for. I'm responsible for the choices that I can make, and I'm responsible for what I consume. And I will say 2021, I'm going to consume much less media because it did not serve me at all. And what's your takeaway of 2021, Kaustubha?
Well, you know,
or 2020. 2020.
2020. We had a hard time taking away anything from 2021. But you know, it was a year that it was such a bizarre year because we all got like the same challenge together in one sense. Obviously, we're individuals and all have different lives, but we were all kind of put through this lockdown and dealing, you know, with COVID, and on top of that, other issues. But we kind of all had to go through together. You know, generally we all have our challenges that are somewhat separate, but this was like a big thing that we all went through together. You know, it seems to me like it was a year. Like if I'm looking at it through like a Bhagavatam perspective, it was a year where, in my mind, so much of what the Bhagavatam speaks about was revealed as true. In other words, hey, you know,
it wasn't rosy.
It wasn't no. It's like
the Bhagavatam is tragedies, right?
Well, it has plenty of tragedies, but what I'm thinking of, the way that I'm thinking of it is that we're all going to be held responsible for how we live. And if we don't begin to catch on to to a spiritual message, that we're not these bodies, that we're the souls within the bodies, that life is sacred, all life is sacred, which means we have to respect the earth. It means that we have to respect the animals. It means that we have to respect each other, and realize that happiness isn't found through like hoarding all the resources, but happiness is found when actually we love and serve one another. And if we don't catch on to that, we're going to suffer. And I think COVID is a reaction to a lack of that understanding. And so many of the other things that played out, in terms of the racial tensions that played out, throughout the year, and in terms of the confusion, like I think, from a Bhagavatam point of view, to see, in the first canto, it talked about how the Dharma, the bull, was missing 3 legs, and that one last leg was just there, which is the leg of truth.
Right.
And 2020 seemed to me a year where truth became just like weaker and weaker and weaker. It's like even on simple things, it's like, and without getting deeply political, but it's just like you look at the state of our democracies. Like one candidate just has to say they cheated, and then everybody's confused. And it's just it's. I think our society is getting revealed for what a mess it is, and and I'm hopeful that often it's darkest before the dawn, and that that more and more people will begin to realize, and it doesn't just have to be like, in our particular form, but like that people realize that spirituality, that seeing the sacredness of all life, that being kind to one another, that the blind materialistic chase after sense gratification leads to pain, and we got to wake up to that.
And I think within this pain, there has been a bunch of us have decided, you know what, I'm going to focus more on spirit. Yeah. And I find you get what you look for in this world. So, we do this flower festival every January, which we can't do this year because we're not going to India. But someone came up to me and said, "You're going to Bombay or Mumbai? Are you crazy? Do you know that Mumbai is famous for human trafficking and brothels?" And and to me, I was like, it is. You know why? I don't look for that. To me, Mumbai is like the most spiritual city on the planet, because when I go there, I'm amongst Raghunath Swami, all his incredible people at that temple. I basically stay within those temple grounds. I barely don't go out of it much except to my hotel, or sometimes we'll take a kirtan trip on the boat and go to Elephanta Island and stuff like that. For the most part, I'm around great souls when I'm there. So to me, whenever I think of Mumbai, I think like I'm in the spiritual world. So you find what you dig up, and you want to find something to be angry about, you can find news on that. You want to find something to be inspired about, you can find. You want something about fitness, you can find it. You want something about upgrading your life, you can find it. You want something about gossip, you need a good somebody to hate, they're right there. All you got to do is put on your radar for that, and you'll get exactly what you're looking for. And we've been bombarded, and it's been like polarizing the world, and we've created so much hate in this world, and I'm over it. And you know what? I'm going to hit you. I'm going to drop a shelter.
You're going to hit
did
me?
it yesterday. Huh? What'd you say? I'm not going to hit you.
You know what? I'm going to hit you. What are you going to hit me?
No,
with?
I'm going to drop, if you don't mind, I'm going to drop my second shelter. I did the song yesterday. I'm going to drop a different song on you. But it has everything to do with this New Year's. Right. We wrote this, like, I think circa 1991, but it's so relevant because everybody is trying to give us some type of information. But it's the information I walk away from, and I'm depressed and I'm distressed. I'm not walking away uplifted. And you know what? There's a lot of great news out there. And the highest type of news is what you give every morning, Prabhu. The news on the self. That's the real news. So check this out. This is called the news. An inspiration for a real sensation, emancipation of my soul. And my fixation is some information on this part's relation to the whole. My aspiration is pure meditation, self-realization, that's the goal. But nonsense information breaks my concentration. Mundane sound vibration is taking control. But before I want to hear your news, I want the news on me. I've been caught up so long in all of life's hype, I haven't had time to see that beneath the disguise, the real self lies, which needs a soul-satisfying activity. No, I don't want to hear your news. I want the news on me. Turn down that noise. Who are we essentially? You see, beneath the smiles, the profiles, and styles lies real individuality. No more immense pretense. I'll take down my fence. I want to know the real me. No more acts. I just want facts on the soul's real personality. But that news confuses, misconstrues, and abuses and blocks my view from what I need to see. I want the news on me. Give me that news, Brother Kaustubha. Give me the news on me.
I took a fascination in your alliteration, communication.
And my dictation is quite fascination. Fascinating.
Very nice, Raghunath.
Right? You get what you want to hear out there. And we can direct it. We can change our radar.
What we can change it to?
We're going to change it to the radar of upgrading my life. I just got to tune out the noise, Prabhu.
What are you going to tune into?
I'm going to, I tell you.
Yeah.
I'm going to turn on
Specifically.
to the, specifically,
yeah,
multiple layers of upgrading my life through what I consume through my mouth, through my ears, through my eyes, and the people I hang out with.
Okay.
And just going through the good mornings, like if you're listening on the outside on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or YouTube, on our Zoom thing, I say good morning to everybody. And I realized that a lot of people I'm saying good morning to is like, they've been in my life this year and they've made a positive effect on my life. And I want to invite these people into my life more and more.
Well, I think we have to, both you and I have to spend a little time right now, as we're coming to the end of the year. Raghunath and I, it's not like we just say this publicly, but even when we're just the two of us together, when we're talking, we're so grateful to everyone that tunes in, whether you're a Zoomer every day or another. Just the fact that so many people have taken an interest in hearing this stuff for us is just like, it's such an inspiration for us, and it's been really helpful for us. So for all the listeners, we're very grateful for all the people that support us, on Patreon. We're incredibly grateful for that. Tamara, for all of the work that she does.
Tireless.
Incredibly grateful for that. Many other people have stepped up to help in different ways. Rachel and Jeff have been tremendously helpful this year, helping us go into the new year. And and again, to everyone, it really means a lot to us to be able to spend this time with all of you.
And everybody writes in. We're really grateful too.
Yeah.
Everybody did that survey. We've really gone through the survey. We really want to upgrade the show for 2021. Do you want to share anything about that, Kaustubha? How we're going to do the?
Yeah, we got nearly 500 responses on the survey. And Rachel and Jeff, they're so helpful. They went through it. They made charts. They helped us understand.
They're like chart people. They're like the charts. Like,
Jeff,
look at this.
yeah.
I was like, wow, it's a chart. You can see what people think through visuals.
And so, but it was helpful, and we want to kind of like no drastic changes, but we do want to kind of like go into the new year with some slight adjustments to the format, right? And part of that is we want to continue to work through the Bhagavatam, but we also want to keep. We want to keep it really topical too. And so we're thinking that we're likely there'll be some as we move, chronologically through the Bhagavatam. Sometimes we'll summarize certain areas,
Because sometimes they get sort of like muddy to walk through and very, very long, and almost
so for
like
weeks at a
tedious
time
that
you're
you
on the
gotta
same
work
subject.
through.
Yeah.
Yeah, so sometimes we'll even abbreviate, and Kaustubha's very good at this, is reading it through, giving an essence, and then getting to a major chunk or major story. And that way, if you're, especially for newer listeners or something, you're not going to get in some what appears sort of like tedious and like detail, which can sometimes go on for chapters.
Yeah.
So we're not going to be led with the Bhagavatam, so to speak, but we'll be sort of led with the theme, although we still will be going through it chronologically.
Yeah. And maybe with some more recaps at the end of the show and things like that too.
Yeah, and I think that's the sort of overall gist of it.
Okay. Also, we have our website up. We need to do a little bit of work on that still, but it's up there. And we're also hopefully soon we'll start to put out a weekly newsletter. And Rachel said that she would, help with that. And I think from that, people can get a lot of. It'll also have like notes on what we covered throughout the week and highlights and points to walk away with and other announcements and things like that too.
All right. It's exciting.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm going to Nepal in April. I'm taking the group to Nepal. We were going to go on pilgrimage, and we decided to go trekking in the Himalayas to all the holy places of Nepal, which was part of India. So it's got all these beautiful Ram temples and Christian, Jagannath temples, believe it or not, and Shiva temples. And we get to be in this Himalayan range. So half the trip we're trekking, and half the trip we're visiting these holy places and having satsangs. And I tell you, I miss it so much because it's such those pilgrimages we do are so powerful, and they sort of like they buoy me to go out and live. It's not just like the time I'm there; it's what happens like afterwards. It affects me afterwards. So thanks for all those people who've signed up for that already. If you're interested, go to my website, Raghunath.yoga, and it's up there right now. All right, so it's our last day of the year, Kaustubha. You want to go through just a recap, or you want to share anything else?
Well, time is short, and we were thinking of recapping the first and second cantos, which is maybe a bit much to do in a half an hour, but we can try, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Chapter 1, we start in the first canto. Again, the Bhagavatam, it's different than the Mahabharata, which is, you're just reading a story. The Bhagavatam is lots of little stories, all sort of put together. And not only that, it's one of the most commented on books of ancient India. So a lot of the weight of the book is the commentaries by the great masters. And that's why in a year, we've only been through 2 books of it, because it's important to churn out these commentary. What's the word? Is to dig through these commentaries and find their relevance in our life. So that's why we're not just like skimming through this thing like a storybook. It's meant to go deep, and it's meant to go very deep. So the first canto, chapter 1, questions of the sages. So here we are in all these sages, liberated souls, not just a group of guys and then some wise person sits. They're already in their own right. They're liberated souls. They're liberated from the stuff that we struggle with, our tongue, our belly, our genitals, all the things that are dragging us around this world. And they're approaching Shamaka Rishi. I'm sorry, they're headed by Shamaka Rishi, and they're approaching a very, very special soul named Sutta Goswami. Right?
Yeah, they felt the Kali Yuga, the darker age, was coming. They wanted to try to do something for the benefit of humanity. They were trying different ways, they were chanting mantras, they were doing fire sacrifices, they were doing rituals, they were trying to do something that was going to bring out auspiciousness, but they could sense that it wasn't getting anywhere. So they turned to Sutta Goswami, who they felt, this person is really, deeply advanced, and this person really is the most learned amongst us as well, and this person has studied all the yoga literature, all the works of Vyasadeva, and we're going to turn to you, and not only that, but your character is so nice too. Due to your character, you've been blessed by your gurus. So we're asking you to help us figure out what to do. Summarize for us, what's most important? And they asked a series of 6 questions, but essentially those questions was, what brings the highest good to humanity, and what leads to Atma Supersiddhiti, the complete satisfaction of the self? We want to hear from you. They were also asking about, now that Krishna has left, where will we find Dharma in this darker age? And that's the answer to that is going to be in the Bhagavatam. So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, if I'm some tenured math professor at MIT and a 6-year-old comes up to me and says, tell me about math, I would say, well, you get 3 apples and you get 3 apples, and I'd hold up my fingers. How many apples does that equal? And then he'd count my fingers and he'd say 6. But if a student who's also, studying math and has been, he's already been through he's working on his PhD in some abstract type of math, and he approaches me and he has a math problem or she has a math problem, and the math answer I can give, if he says, well, tell me where you're thinking about math and where's math going, I can give a very, very sophisticated answer. So what we're doing in the Bhagavatam is you have a bunch of people who are not 6-year-olds, who don't know the basic ethics of what is right and what is wrong, and they're committing all type of crazy activities. They are already been working on themselves in this lifetime, if not for lifetimes, and they're approaching a great master. So what we're going to get out of the Bhagavatam is this very, very deep and very, very profound and very, very detailed information of how to elevate your consciousness, as well as how to elevate the world, like how to live in a world, like Kaustubha was saying, what is the highest good for humanity at large. So that's why the Bhagavatam sometimes can get very complicated, because the listeners are very evolved. All right, should we chapter 2?
Mm-hmm.
Chapter 2 is divinity and divine service.
So chapter 2, the answers to the questions in chapter 1 come out, and really, this most important question, what leads to Atma Supersiddhiti? How does one find complete satisfaction of the soul? People need to know this, and the answer to that will be bhakti, right? That bhakti brings the highest good, and it leads to Atma Supersiddhiti, and that's right where it starts. And that Krishna is the ultimate shelter, and that he manifests in 3 features: Brahman, all-pervasive energy, Paramatma within the heart, and Bhagavan ultimately as a person. So all that, chapter 2 is kind of like it's a summary of like the highest spiritual truths right there.
To me, when I hear that, I was like, okay, chapter 2 tells more about the understanding of God than anything I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah,
meaning it's recognizing that God is a being. Okay, because a lot of us have walked away from God, a personal relationship with Jesus or a personal relationship with the Buddha. We've walked away from that because of maybe some dogma or some weird experience we've had in spirituality, and we've accepted, okay, forget that. I think God is just a feeling, an energy, a cloud, a positive light. And so here it's distinguishing, yes, God is that. That's called Brahman. Yes, God is in your heart. I believe that God is my heart. You hear people say things like this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I believe God is in my heart.
God is in everyone.
And then some people who still maybe raised in a Eastern Orthodox or Christian or Roman Catholic, no, I pray to God and God is my father and stuff like that. It takes it to all different levels and says they all have relevance because they're all different vantage points of truth. And it's such a beautiful way to validate all paths, but give each one of them actually some substance as well. And it goes into the very substance of all these things, what to speak of the substance of God as the Father. And not just the Father, but then it goes the nuanced relationships of this higher power that we can have, right to the point where the Father becomes the little baby. He's the little baby. The Father is actually my little baby. That is almost next level. What?
Yeah, well, that's when it gets into the esoteric stuff.
Chapter 4, the appearance.
Chapter 3.
Chapter 3, Krishna is the source of all incarnations.
Yeah. So then that, although he manifests in these three features. He also that person Krishna manifests as many different kind of incarnations, right? He'll come in so many different forms. But and then this verse that's called the Paribhasa Sutra, the essential verse in the entire text of 18,000 verses through which we can understand every other text, every other verse is mentioned there. Ete Changsa Kala Pungsa, Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. That there's a whole list of different manifestations, different incarnations.
Put that on the board, Mara. Right? Everyone should know that one line at least, right?
Yeah. But it's saying that the source of all of them is Krishna. So, and now why that's so important is it'll become clear when we look at chapters 5 and 6, where like Vyasadeva has written so much literature about so many devas and so many ways to understand the divine, whether it's as energy, whether it's within the heart, whether it's as a person, all the different incarnations, all the different devas. It hasn't been clarified, where it all comes from. And so there he makes it unmistakable. And the broader context of the Bhagavatam is about to come out in chapters 6 and 7, and why he's establishing that here, and how we can understand that is not just one statement amongst many, but a conclusive statement that Vyasa's works have been building up to, is kind of revealed in chapters 5 and 6, where we get the context of what was going through the author's mind as he was composing this literature.
Well, we've met people in India who, and if you're from India listening, you probably know this. You grow up with a family ishta, a family deity of how you perceive God, or how your parents perceive God, and how their grandparents, and those things get passed on for generation. In the same way, like when I was 9, I never said, "Hey, Mom, maybe we should be Protestants, not Catholics," or maybe we should not follow the papacy and we should follow Eastern Orthodox understanding of Christ. I never had that debate with myself. I just grew up worshiping Jesus in a Roman Catholic tradition, just as it's been handed to me from childhood. So there are, and in this chapter, they talk about the multiple avatars, which, by the way, is also cool because the whole idea of this anthropomorphism, that you create a god that looks like you, that gets immediately wiped out when you have the horse-headed incarnation or the tortoise incarnation or the boar incarnation, unless we have some boars out there, wild boars listening, like we have the dogs listening on the bed. But so that's thrown out the window, the anthropomorphism. But the idea that, you could grow up worshiping Varaha or Haryagriva as your Ishta. But here it's pointing out, and they're all real. Just because a candle can light a candle can light a candle. But what's the original source of that candle? Mara, what's that verse in Sanskrit? Come on, I just said to memorize it.
Te chamsa kalapamsa Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam.
That's it. Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. I don't even know the first part of it. Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. It all comes ultimately from that original source. That's not to say, oh, here they go again. They're trying to push their Krishna agenda on us. No, it's not our agenda. It's the Bhagavatam's agenda. It's okay. There has to be a source, a fountainhead of the other incarnations. And it's not even saying the worship of Haryagriva is wrong. The worship of Vishnu is wrong. It's very, very right. But the Bhagavatam is saying, but the source of them, that's coming from Krishna. It's coming from that charming young lad.
And that had been unclear. Like the author hadn't made that clear before. So it's not that Vyasa is contradicting his previous work, but he's clarifying it. And that's what's so fascinating about chapters 4 and 5. Because we're going to get the background. We're going to get the context. We're going to get the understanding of what the author was trying to accomplish and why with the Bhagavatam.
This is fun, actually. We're going through the Bhagavatam now, like, just remembering all this stuff. Chapter 5.
Well, chapter 4.
Chapter 4. Why do I do this every time, Mara?
I don't
Chapter
know.
4, the appearance. Is it do I have just like a scrambled brain? I
really don't know.
It's like scrambled eggs in my brain.
It's scrambled in a very special way if it's scrambled. In a beautiful way.
Thank you. Chapter 4, the appearance of Narada. This is unbelievable. This amazing Bhakta Narada. He comes in and he
Well, we have the author, right? We have the author Vyasadeva.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Okay.
And so he first, it opens up, he has this vision of the Kali Yuga is coming. A dark time is coming. People's memories are going to be short. People are going to be always, their minds are going to be disturbed all the time. They're going to have a really hard time practicing spirituality, and it's going to lead to suffering. He wants to relieve that suffering, right? So he begins to say, you know what? People's memories are going to be so short. The Vedas, the Vedic literature, this body of knowledge, which has been an oral tradition all along, it needs to be written down. Otherwise, the chain will break and no one will get it. And I also need to kind of categorize it and edit it in such a way that it'll be more easily understandable. So he writes the Vedas. Along with that, the Upanishads. Along with that, the Mahabharata. Along with that, the Puranas. This and the Vedanta Sutra as well.
Are you saying one guy wrote all this stuff?
This was a super yogi, he was like super yogi, incredibly pure mind, and he goes into this meditation, and he sees all this. And, but having accomplished all that, he's so sensitive, he's sitting there and saying, I still don't feel quite right. I feel some sense of dissatisfaction. Why is that? Something's not right. What could it be?
I have to sing a minor threat song. Okay, go on.
And so then his guru appears to him, Narada. And in chapter 5, we get the answer to what was missing. Where he was falling short. What was the source of that dissatisfaction? And so chapter 5, Narada's instructions on Srimad Bhagavatam to Vyasadeva is Narada says, you know what, you've written all this literature. It's great stuff. But you know what you failed to do? And like you were saying, it's like, a new student to math, you might give them some very basics, but he had given spiritual basics, but he hadn't been clear enough about where it all leads and where people find that Atma Supersiddhiti. So you've given the whole practice of karma, like how to do your rituals and recognize the gods and receive material benefits. And you've spoken at length about jnana, about renouncing the things of this world so one can find some peace, but you haven't fully described that more esoteric teaching about like divine love and who's the object of that love, and that ultimately it all comes from Krishna, and that finding that pure love without any personal motivation, right, without having any separate endeavor, but entirely unconditional pure love for a divine source, that is the goal of all this. And you haven't been clear enough about that, and how are people going to fall in love with Krishna if you don't describe him more? So that's what we need you to do. And so then he focuses on that, and that's Srimad Bhagavatam, and that's why it starts with Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudeva. It's all about Krishna, and it's all building to the 10th canto, which is like this huge, huge section that's just all about Krishna. So that gets established here, and through that we can understand that the author of the Vedas and the author of the Upanishads and the author of the Mahabharata was trying to do something specific and conclusive under the order of his guru, Narada, that he was going to finally give the clearest, most concise and direct answers. Therefore, ete changsa kala pungsa, Krishna stu bhagavansvayam. Everything stemming from Krishna. How does one find happiness in life? Through pure devotional service, through divine love for Krishna. It's not sectarian, but it's just the conclusion of it all.
I love this concept, like a great sage, like the wisdom's already there. It's not like he wrote the Upanishads. They were already out there. Like the truth was out there. He just codified it and put it down in Sanskrit sutras. And so people could understand it because he had that vision. Like, imagine being a sage and sitting in meditation and seeing the future. He had the ability to see the future, and it's like, oh my God, look what they're doing in New Jersey. They're building more factories. This is going to be a mess. What are they dumping into the rivers? This is horrible. Oh my God, chemtrails. It's just like seeing everything. And so he's like, I've got to record this stuff. It's going to be lost. People are getting dumber. Yeah. It's like Dumb and Dumber. He had a vision of Dumb and Dumber, the movie. He's like, it's a mess out there. And this is exactly what he did. He compiled it all for our benefit. And he cut, and the Bhagavatam just cuts the fat, gets right to the essence.
Okay.
But
But
so in
then,
chapter five, Narada's instructions on the Srimad Bhagavatam for Vyasadeva.
that is to glorify Krishna more vividly, and that's what the Bhagavatam does.
Okay.
Establishes and like that. Now it gets really interesting because it's like, well, where's he going to start? What's he going to do?
Yeah.
And because he had already, this author had already, like, imagine if you had written, not that this is a perfect analogy or something like that, but imagine, like the author of Harry Potter,
Yeah.
had a new challenge that had to reach all of humanity with a really important message.
What's the essential teachings of Harry Potter?
Yeah, well, she could use the
Cut
same
through.
characters that you already love from Harry Potter. And in one sense, that's kind of what Vyasadeva does. He says everybody's already read and loves Mahabharata, and they've fallen in love with Arjuna and Yudhishthira and Kunti and Draupadi and all the Pandavas, Bhishma, Drona,
Vidura.
yeah, Vidura. People already love them. Let me start with them, and because it's their offspring, right? It's the grandson of Arjuna, Parikshit, who asked all the questions in Bhagavatam. So let's go back to them. And the other day we were reading about the 10 topics in the Bhagavatam, and especially in this first and second cantos, it's describing the creation and the especially in the second canto, first and second levels of creation, but also Poshanam, the protection of the Lord, and Ashraya, who is that ultimate shelter? Who do we ultimately take shelter of? And so through these chapters, through chapters 6 all the way through 19, we're hearing about these characters from the Mahabharata, and each one of them, Kunti is going to establish Krishna as the Ashraya. Bhishma is going to establish Krishna as the Ashraya. We're going to hear about, Vidura is going to do it. And we're going to hear about how Parikshit takes his birth, how special he is, and it'll increase our faith in the message that's to come, because it's coming from these people that we already love and trust so much. So as soon as we get
in
in,
chapter where he tell the life story about Narada, how he was born, how he got to where he was.
Yeah, that also comes out, which is also real important.
I mean, it's a 5-year-old boy, son of a maid, working in a.
That's chapter 6. Yeah.
Conversation between Narada and Vyasa. A son of a maid, a 5-year-old boy serving his mother, and great sages come in, and he's rendering service and cleaning up, and he's like sitting and listening to the sages, and the sages have developed this affection for this young boy.
Yeah.
And he says, well, I understand that to eat the remnants of the food of great sages is a good thing. I hear you guys talking. Do you mind if I eat your food? And the sages were like, this isn't what we usually do, but yeah, you can have some. He's a very gentle child. And he eats the remnants of the food, and it affects him in such a deep way. Very powerful thing, they say, to eat the remnants of the food of great souls.
And he also hears from them every day.
And hears from them on a regular basis. Yeah. And then when the sages leave, so it's like an inn, and the mother dies.
Yeah.
And he's this little boy, and he feels like, why am I here? And he just goes off on his own as a child in like crazy places, in the jungle, in the forest, in the cities. And he's just a wandering child. And he develops this. He gets a vision of Vishnu there. Is that it? Or is it the next
Yeah, what happens is, you see, this is Narada's way of telling Vyasadeva, you've been holding back on just directly glorifying God and directly glorifying the path of bhakti. You've been describing other paths, which are kind of stepping stones to bhakti, but you haven't gone deep into this one. But I'm telling you, don't be afraid to go all the way, because it works for people. Let me give myself as an example. In my previous life, I was an ordinary boy, right? But I met these Bhakti-yogis, and I sat and I heard from them. And what I gained, the insights, even as a little boy that was just like the son of I wasn't a great brahmana. I wasn't born into a family of some great spiritual leaders or anything. I was living with a single mother who was just struggling to run a little inn, right? But because I got the association of these Bhakti-yogis, that even as a little boy when my mother died, I had the insights to interpret that, not as like not as suffering, not as unfair, not as there is no God. No, I understood it as God's mercy, and I took advantage of it, and I began to wander, and contemplate God and practice meditation. And even as a boy, those instructions were so powerful, and the effect of their association was so powerful of those great yogis, that I was able to see Lord Vishnu. He revealed himself to me. So he's saying that the process really works.
Does
Go
it say
ahead.
how he died? I can't remember.
Well, he eventually dies, but it said when he died, it was like thunder and lightning happening at the same time. He took on his new body as Narada.
Huh.
And as Narada,
Okay.
he had a spiritual body, and he had the veena, the spiritual, powerful instrument that he could play, and he was just full of bliss and just with freedom to travel and to glorify God in deep states of spiritual bliss.
Might be you in your next life, sir. Thunder,
Ah,
lightning, musical instrument appears in your hands.
Could be you. Could be you. What instrument would
floating
you like?
around, floating down your stairs. I don't know. I'm not going to take the elevator. I'm just going to woo walk right out the window.
It could be any of us. Yeah. So that's chapter 6, where we get that whole, that's again Narada's way of saying, I need you to directly that dissatisfaction that you're feeling, that'll disperse when you're directly glorifying Krishna.
Oh my God, Kaustubha, chapter 7, the son of Drona punished. Oh, I love this chapter.
Well, it's a way of beginning to glorify Maharaj Parikshit, the main questioner in the Bhagavatam, right? But again, it starts with Arjuna, right, our hero, right? That it's the end of the battle of Kurukshetra, but Ashwatthama kills all the sons of the, in a very unethical way, kills all the sons of the Pandavas.
The son of their guru. The son of their guru.
Yeah,
their
which
martial guru.
complicates it. Is
Does
the
something
murderer.
very horrible, and he kills all their children while they were sleeping.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it's like, how do they react? And so they react incredible. They want to kill him. They want to kill him. Even Krishna says, kill him. He's incredibly sinful. What he does, there's no good way to do anything. And then Draupadi demonstrated something even more powerful than Krishna. Draupadi showed mercy. It's Kunti.
No, Draupadi.
Draupadi
said,
showed mercy.
Yeah.
And she said, no. I do not want his mother to feel like I am feeling right now. Yeah. And he is the son of a Brahmin, and Brahmin should be respected. And she just showed mercy. And it's one of these things where we're feeling the scale between, and this is the Vaishnava attitude. We're always holding up this scale between justice and mercy. And it's quite beautiful. And it brings out the heart of the Vaishnavi, in this case, the female Vaishnava, and her deep, deep compassion. Even though Krishna says you can kill this person, there's no harm for what he's done.
You should, yeah.
Yeah, and Bhima wanted to kill him.
But then she actually changes Krishna's mind after hearing Draupadi. In other words, God changes his mind, right? And he says,
after hearing the devotee, God changes his mind. It's an unbelievable chapter.
Raghunath, we got like 8 minutes left, and we got like about 20 chapters left. So I'm wondering, but we're getting some feedback on the chat board. I'm wondering if we should just pick up here tomorrow. I'm not saying we should stop right now, but
yeah, I understand.
That we should continue it tomorrow.
Okay, let's do that. Let's have a New Year's Day. We'll cap up the rest of this thing, and we'll dive into whatever we get to. And that's the way we'll celebrate our new year.
Okay. Yeah, and people are saying go long. Actually, we were talking about that, but Raghunath has classes to teach.
Yeah, I teach yoga right after this at 6:30, supersoulyoga.com. You can join me. I do a little Gita for 15 minutes, and then we have 45 minutes of some butt kicking. But it's nice.
Raghu, today's Thursday?
Today's Thursday?
It is, yeah.
Oh, I don't teach after class.
So we could go long.
Are you sure? Today's Thursday.
I'm pretty sure.
Thank God for Mara.
Raghunath, you have a hard time remembering what verse we're on. Days you need to get down. That's going to be important.
I really got to get the day thing down. So I don't teach today. What else do I do? What am I doing today, Mara?
So what do you want to do, Raghunath? Do you want to pick up on this tomorrow, or do you want to do a long class today?
I don't know, because you know what? I feel bad for people who have to go at a certain time.
Okay, so then we can do it tomorrow.
Okay.
But we can keep.
Let's
We
do
could
this
just continue with what we're doing now. I just want to figure out what.
All right, let's
what's
just
our
continue.
strategy.
Let's continue. I'm sorry about that. I don't have class. Oh.
Okay.
And I do
so
want to mention Colombia again because
we can do that at the
I'm
end.
still taking a gang to Colombia. Kaustubha and Marek can't go for personal reasons, but we're going and we're studying. We're doing Sweet Baby Krishna every day. We're doing our morning Sangha every day. We're doing yoga every day. And trying to, Paramananda is going to hop on the boat with me. We're looking forward to all the people have signed up, and tropical adventures and tropical fruit, and the cold weather can really get that seasonal, what's it called? Sad season of, what's that called?
Effectiveness disorder, seasonal effectiveness.
Yeah. Yes. So sometimes it's good to shake it up. And fortunately, Colombia is very COVID safe. So anyway, you can go to my website and check that out, Raghunath.yoga, Colombia and the Nepal trip. All right, let's keep going with this because I really am happy and it's bringing light to my life.
All
So
right.
that was the next chapter is the big one, right?
Well, it's one. I mean, so many of them are big ones. Yeah, but so if chapter 7, the son of Jonah punished, it was a way of so many fascinating things are there, right? In that conversation between Arjuna, Krishna, Draupadi, Yudhishthir, Bhima, about what to do with Ashwatthama, who just committed this horrible act.
And they're all
Right.
great souls. Like
They're
they're
all
all
great
great souls. They're all authorities. They're all
And they're disagreeing.
appropriate, right? And
Yeah.
they're all disagreeing, which is also very timely. Like there can be many opinions, and none of them are necessarily wrong. There can be many opinions. And this is another thing. We tend to want to judge and be harsh and lay down the mallet. And oftentimes we're not even in the position to do it. We don't even know. We don't even know the whole situation. We just know we have an agenda. We're attached to the way something should turn out. We're not demonstrating mercy. We ourselves are not so kind or show so much compassion. We just want a conviction. And so this is a very beautiful thing. And it teaches me to be careful not to be so judgmental. That's my big takeaway from it.
Okay. And then so that what happens is in the end, Arjuna kills and doesn't kill him, right? Because, at first Krishna said kill him, and then Draupadi said don't kill him, and then Krishna said okay, don't kill him, and Yudhishthira was like I don't think we should kill him, and Bhima was like no, kill him, and then Krishna turns to Arjuna, and Arjuna's there what do I do? And Krishna says you have to satisfy everyone, and so what he does is he kills him and doesn't kill him by killing his ego, right?
Kills his ego.
He kills his ego.
He gave him a bad haircut.
Gave him a real bad haircut.
Which I never felt like. I've always felt like that wasn't that bad of a punishment. Because he cut he's got a big mustache, so he cut one of his sides of his mustache. The thing is this, though, Raghunath.
For Ashwatthama to die fighting Arjuna, for a great warrior to die fighting another great warrior, that's something they can live with. But to be humiliated in this way is almost far less tolerable than dying in battle with this person. So to be defeated in battle, to be publicly humiliated and sent off, for him, that's worse than death, right? But what happens is he comes back. And Ashwatthama, even though he doesn't just take it with humility and go off into his corner, he comes back with a vengeance, further evil intentions. And that was, he knew Krishna's about to leave Dwarka. He's been there. He's about to leave Hastinapur, where he's been with the Pandavas throughout the Battle of Kurukshetra and the time afterward. Now he's about to go back to his home, which is in Dwarka. And he's about to, and Uttara, who is Arjuna's daughter-in-law, who's pregnant with the one heir left, because of all of their other heirs had been killed. Ashwatthama had killed them all. There's one left, and Uttara's coming, running to Krishna, saying, Ashwatthama's attacking with a weapon. He's attacking my...
Prabhupada calls it a nuclear missile.
Yeah, like a mantra focused weapon to kill the child in her womb. And she's running to Krishna saying, save me, save my child. And Krishna appears, and that child is Maharaj Pariksit, will be Maharaj Pariksit, who's the main questioner in the Bhagavatam. Lord Vishnu appears in the womb of Uttara to protect Maharaj Pariksit. So that's that poshanam, that's that protection, and he's the shelter, right? He's the ashray, he's the shelter. Maharaj Pariksit, even in the womb, that was established for him.
Has this vision of
And
Vishnu in the womb.
And then that chapter continues with the prayers of Queen Kunti. And that's just incredible stuff where as Krishna's about to leave, Kunti comes out, he's on his chariot, she's offering the prayers. And her prayers, again, this is Vyasadev's way of saying, hey, this is the book where I'm going to establish once and for all that divine love is the ultimate path that we're all meant to come to. And don't just, and I want that to come through the mouths of people that you have respect and faith in, right? And so I'm going to start with Kunti, the mother of Arjuna and the Pandavas, this person who you know from Mahabharata is so righteous and so wise and so good. And she's going to come before Krishna.
And she's like an empress. Like she has, in one sense, she has everything.
Yeah.
And her life was wrought with great distress.
Well, and that's part of the point, right? In other words, is preparing us to understand what Bhagavatam is going to give us. She'd gone through so much tragedy, so much difficulty. And she's going to say to Krishna, Krishna, when you appear, everything's beautiful. The earth is beautiful. The rivers are beautiful. The mountains are beautiful. And when we're separated from you, or disconnect from you, that's when we suffer. So she says, you know what, Krishna? Let all the calamities in life happen again and again. I don't mind. And we're all going to have these calamities. 2020 has been a year of calamity, right?
Right.
Let the calamities happen. Because when the calamities happen, I remember you. And when I remember you, I no longer see birth and death. And that's an essential message of how to understand Bhagavatam and how to understand life. And maybe that happened for us this year, right? There's a lot of calamity, but there was Krishna appearing as Bhagavatam.
That is exactly what happened, Prabhu.
All right.
And that's why I'm trying to play this song. It's not. There we go. 2021. It's a coming. It's around the corner. Thanks for everybody for joining us this year. Very, very beautiful. I've met so many great people in my life. I'm so grateful.
I want to meet them all in person in the coming year.
Yeah, we have to do some retreats with everybody and get together. And it was great. We did our Wisdom of the Sages retreat. That was fun. And it's a great year for a great year.
Okay.
What a great recap, Kaustubha. It was a great idea. That was all Kaustubha's idea.
Come on.
I had no idea what I was doing today.
We've done 7
Kaustubha is the fountainhead of great ideas. Mara's not going to be with us tomorrow because of
That's
her.
crazy.
She lost her wallet in the ocean.
The ocean took your wallet
She was
away.
laying on the beach. She was laying on the beach, and one of those, and we had all this whole, some of her famous foods set up on the beach, tropical things, and she was reading a good novel, not a Krishna conscious novel, and a rogue wave came, dragged all her stuff out to sea, including her passport, her wallet, all of her cash. We're setting up a GoFundMe account right now. Help Mara get back to the mainland. She's like on Gilligan's Island out there.
Mara, this is going to be the first show without you. How is that possible?
It's sad to start off the new year without getting to be there with you guys.
Try to be there. See if you can pull
Yeah, I will. If I get through TSA, I'll make it. I'll be there.
She's trying to get through TSA with just a fake passport. She's going to manufacture one at Kinko's. That's what she's working on this morning. Got it.